"Is this where I put it?" said the doctor, the full-blown medical doctor, as he attempted to do a very simple medical procedure on my father. Um, this medical procedure had been done many times on my father with no problems whatsoever, even done by nurses, um, unattended nurses even. But this doctor, with the help of his supervising doctor, they were having difficulties putting this simple medical device to work on my father, who was deathly ill. He was in very deep trouble with his cancer. And ultimately, these two doctors, in my opinion, killed my father through their just incompetence. Medical mistakes have killed millions of Americans. When we talk about medical mistakes, it's not like choosing A over B, and A and B are pretty much equal choices. It's out of incompetence and stupidity that a medical mistake is made. We've been to the doctors before, and when a nurse was prescribing a very powerful, dangerous medication, I said, "Hey, this doesn't look quite right," because they had prescribed a similar medication before, and the nurse said, "Oh, yeah." She had prescribed an amount that was 10 times the proper amount. She came back with a different, apparently corrected prescription. I said, "This still doesn't look right." She had prescribed the wrong number of times, and times per week, times per day, and times per week of the medication. This could have caused severe, could have put a person in the hospital, could have killed someone. The other thing about the medical doctors that attended to my father, I'm not going to talk about here. It's just, it's too sad. But it was clear to me that those medical doctors, at least, were hired because of their race. And this is happening all across America. There are, the system is encouraging multiple levels of incompetency. So people are being brought into pre-med programs, allowed to get into pre-med programs because of their race. 100, 200 points are added to their scores, half a point added to their GPA in order to get the proper number of certain races into their pre-med program. Scholarships are given out based on race. So some races are encouraged through money and others are discouraged. Asians, of course, are blocked from getting into, in large numbers, from getting into pre-med. And then medical programs, of course, you have a very difficult time getting into a medical school if you're Asian. But if you are one of the quote-unquote people of color races, you will have large numbers of points added to your scores in order to push you into medical school. Of course, I'm not saying that any race is superior or inferior. We have superior and inferior individuals. There are individual black medical students who belong and are at the top of their class. I'm certain of that. Same with Asians, whites, and Hispanics. But the system guarantees that the race that makes up the worst group of doctors, the worst race when it comes to doctors, are blacks. That's what this system of affirmative action guarantees, because they keep highly qualified Asians out in order to, individual Asians, in order to bring in mediocre black medical school students. And then after they graduate from medical school, the great filter, of course, is the medical exam, because nobody adds any points to that. So that's one system that is still in place, but you only have to get a minimal score. I mean, what do you call a doctor that graduated from the bottom of their class and scored, and failed their medical exam, 2 times, but passed on the 3rd try? You call them doctor. You call them all doctors. They're all practicing, right? So there's a limit to what the medical exams can do. And then the hospitals, of course, they're actually scouring the world to fill in their diversity quotas. The doctors that attended to my father were obviously born in another country. And it was obvious that they were there because of their race, because they were god-awful, they were dangerous, and they were killing people. Okay? And this is happening throughout the nation of the United States. It's not happening all over the world. It's happening in the United States because we have a system that guarantees that certain races, that they will pick inferior doctors from certain races to pretend to be as competent as the good doctors of every race. When you see a black doctor, it's not guaranteed that he's going to be incompetent or she's going to be incompetent. No way, no. Just like, Barack Obama was not guaranteed to be a terrible lawyer because he was black. But on average, typically, if you're Asian, you can only get into medical school if you are absolutely excellent. The medical schools will only choose an Asian candidate if they are absolutely excellent because there are too many Asians. They want to get rid of the Asians and bring in black and Hispanic candidates. And unfortunately, this has cost the lives of thousands and thousands of people. And that's obvious to me, from my experience and from statistics. This is simple math. This has nothing to do with race, actually. This has nothing to do with race. If you choose incompetent people from Group A and you block highly competent people from Group B, you will increase the number of medical mistakes occurring in hospitals, and there will be people dying, just like my father. So that's simple math. That has nothing to do with the race of the medical doctors or the nurses or anything like that. You've implemented a mathematical statistical system that kills thousands of people. The labels in those categories are racial labels, just so happens. If you gave 4 points to every Asian NBA player every time an Asian NBA player scored, you'd have a whole bunch of lousy Asian NBA players in the NBA, and they would suck. They would absolutely suck. It wouldn't be because of their race. It would be because the system created a guarantee that the worst players in the NBA were Asian on average. Whereas in a pure meritocracy, there would be no difference in the racial groups in the NBA. They would all be about equally average. The average of each group would be the average of the total group. That's simple statistics. But affirmative action has created a system in which, you want to choose your doctor according to their race. That's simple statistics. That's not racism. That's the racism of the system. That's not the racism of the patient. That's the racism of the system, which would be fine if it was, acting or art history. But when you're talking about medicine and medical research, I mean, think about how many more cancer cures or treatments we would have if we had a pure meritocracy. Maybe my father would still be here. Good luck.